Welcome to USA Biz Party. I'm Anna Scheller, your host, and this is,
I'm Esther Ocampo, your co host.
and we have our lovely guest host, Catherine Lang, who promises that she is here just to support us, but we really appreciate her a great deal. She brings a unique perspective that is really important on all the topics we discuss. So thank you, Catherine, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. We already have two viewers, so thank you for joining us. If you're watching us, feel free to message us in the chat. If you're in YouTube, if you're on X, if we don't respond right away, we will after we're done here. So we do appreciate you. If you're on the replay, uh, please do say something in the chat. Here's the deal. If you're enjoying this particular live stream series or any series that we're doing, finding it helpful, go ahead, subscribe to USA Biz Party. You know where to do that down below here. And on top of that, make sure you click that little bell so that you get notified the next time we go live. Today's topic is an important topic because we live in such a digital age. All of the last few weeks, we've been talking about work life or life work boundaries because it was just an aside here. Over the weekend, we had a very stressful moment at my house. And my husband was talking about his list, 1, 2, 3, all the way down to his elbow. And I say, that's really kind of funny because I thought we were human beings, not human doings. And of course, I got a dirty look because that's not what he wanted to hear. But I think we have to realize that first we are here on planet Earth. And I have to constantly remind myself this is not something I'm terribly good at all the time, but it's something I'm working on. And that is that it's the whole idea of the airplane, the flight attendants when they do their safety briefing and the masks are supposed to drop and they tell you put your mask on first before you take care of the person beside you. And I remember my mother-in-law, she was not much of a traveler, but I remember when she heard that, she fussed about it to me and she said, I can't believe they would do it. What about that child? And I said, well, then you won't have to worry about the child or yourself, Mom, because you won't have the mental capacity to help the child. And so as we're talking about this, keep in mind that we have to protect our mental capacity. We have to protect our spiritual capacity. We have to protect ourselves as people, because if we lose sight of who we are in the day-to-day grind and trying to get everything done, maybe you're working on that contract and you just have to get that done. Keep in mind that at the end of the day, if you are wasted because you did not take care of yourself, then honestly, you're no good to your team. You're no good to your family. You're no good to yourself. And how many executives have burnt out, even had heart attacks, all that stuff for not taking care of themselves when they should have been taking care of themselves? We live in a digital age, so we're going to focus today on some digital solutions, particularly communicating boundaries to those around us and how we use that with our digital communication. So, ladies, any comments before we dive into our three topics?
No, I think your analogy or your example, the one that's always thrown about the mask, putting your own mask on first and filling up your own cup first and things. I always find that as a mother, you want to protect your child first. So I feel that, I'm like your mother-in-law was, and but I understand the logic behind it. I'm just probably one of the worst people to actually do it and look after myself first. But the whole work-life balance, or as we put it here, life-work balance, because we had Sabrina Cadini on some years ago who rephrased it. And we are here to live. We should be living to work, not working to live. Or the other way, I can't remember. No, we should be working so we can live, not living just to work. So you always have to have your life balance there first.
Precisely. Yeah, I mean, particularly as mothers, um, it's tough. It's tough. And, now we're often in some role reversals with our families now, where mom and dad are working, and a lot of times, depending on work schedules, dad is the primary caretaker, or so it works both ways. And I think fathers and men actually have just as difficult a time as women, because they're driven by um, a different set of expectations. Catherine, how about you, my dear?
I know it's going to shock y'all that I'm the odd man out here, but it is. It is a faith thing. When my children were little, I turned them over to God, and I became a steward. I was not. I Even though they're mine, they're not mine. They never were. He just put them there for me, and it is that little shift that allows us to have that right balance. And it's that little shift in our business. It's that little shift in our lives when we look at things just a little bit differently. If the child next to you wasn't yours, it would be easier for you to put your mask on and then their mask, because of that little shift in focus. And so when we're trying to get that balance that we need and we have to have, sometimes it just takes that little shift to make the difference.
Mhm. Oh, you're muted, Anna.
See, I so wanted to get her, I didn't want to interrupt her. That I love that. I think that's real important, that we look at ourselves as stewards, you know, particularly no matter what your religion is. I mean, we're Christian based here. That doesn't mean that we wouldn't be open to hearing another perspective. But if it's, mine, you're right. That creates a whole shift of perspective. Well, the first thing we want to talk about is setting expectations, speaking of that kind of thing, because let's face it, we have a lot of demands that come at us from our business, from our families, maybe from our volunteer church work. And it is so easy to respond to the urgent. It's so easy to respond to right here, right then, right now. And so I believe in the past I've told this story about when I first learned how to set boundaries with my husband. And I remember this one time he wanted me to stop what I was doing to help him put a picture up. And I said, not now. I'm willing to help you in a little while. Well, he wasn't used to that. And he actually pitched a fit, a royal fit. He thought something was wrong with our marriage and all this stuff. And I looked at him and I said, there's nothing wrong with our marriage. I'm willing to help you, just not right now. And that can be tough, because especially in business, I think we want to please our customers. We want to have this great customer service. And the bottom line is that, again, if we're not setting expectations of, for example, when we're reachable, when we're not. My personal phone message when people leave a voicemail is, thank you for your call. I will return your call between 11 and 12, and then again between 4 and 5. That's my message. Now, I need to listen to my message more. But it sets an expectation for people, so that they know, unless it's between 11 and 12 and 4 and 5, they can't really expect a phone call from me in at that time. Um, so I think this is, we have to define those clear expectations. So when I'm working, what do you guys do to define those clear expectations with colleagues and clients and family and friends?
Yeah, I have to say that I think ever since COVID, when everyone was working from home. Now we've always worked from home. We work like our office is designated as our garage is designated as the office space. But ever since COVID and people were all working from home and therefore more flexible. And I was getting phone calls from friends, from relatives during a 9 to 5 period. And, just as an entrepreneur, you never really work 9 to 5 anyway, especially with clients all over the world in different time zones. But during the 9 to 5, people were phoning just for a chat because they were not at work, because they weren't a key worker, or they weren't, whatever phrase that was put on it, or they couldn't move their working life to their home to be able to continue on to, be in the office from home or whatever. So there was so much more. They had so much more time in their hands. So therefore they thought I did too. But during COVID, it was when we were probably our busiest, because everyone was frantically trying to get online and get their websites up and get everything working so that people could still buy from them. And I think it's continued. It's not as bad now as it was, but it has continued on, and people will phone at like 11 o'clock in the morning. Oh, just phone in for a chat. No, no, I'm not available for a chat. And sometimes it's a client who's also a friend. So you're never sure which you're going to get on the phone, if you're going to get the client who needs something, or if you're going to get the friend who needs something. So definitely those clear boundaries need to be set. I should put on a voice note like Anna and just let voicemail take everything, because I'm like we said last week, I'm one of these people that I need to know what the notification says. I need to know who's on the other side of the phone. Even if I don't know the number, I'm one of those crazy people that will answer it.
Yes, I think that all entrepreneurs face that. I mean, it takes a while to get to where you are not driven. And still, I mean, I have gotten better at it. I've gotten better at it, but I don't feel I'm anywhere near accomplished. So, especially if I'm working on a proposal or a contract and, the person wants to talk to me, I have a tendency to just want to jump in there and talk to them right away. And, sometimes, so again, another opportunity came for me to set some boundaries. And so my team was messaging me on Slack, and one of the team members said, "So we can tell them that this is going to be done by 3." So I said, let me contact that individual. And I did. And I explained my constraints, and I said, we'll get that to you by the end of the week. No problem, Anna. Great. So I let my team know. I said, it's fine. But I slowed the process down, and I clearly set the expectation when that person could receive payment, because we jump. We just jump, right? We're so concerned about making sure that our clients are happy that we sometimes forget that sometimes we're not doing them justice by stepping back, thinking things through, and honoring the boundaries that we have set. Catherine, what about you?
First of all, if an unknown number calls me, I have a friend that is a private detective, and I actually send it to him so I can find out who it is. So I get that. I totally get that. I don't answer it. I just find out who it is. And as far as the expectations, there's two things. One, you have to set the expectations for you. What are you going to do, and what are going to be your limits? Because you really have no control over what anybody else does. And if the moment you start thinking you have control over anyone else, they're going to slip in and let all your squirrels loose. And that's never a good situation. So you want to know what your expectations are. Once you know what your expectations are, that's when you tell other people, these are my expectations. I do not deviate from those. You can have places where you'll bend a little bit, but I promise you, if you bend a little bit in your expectations, in your limits, in your boundary lines, someone is going to keep pushing until they break that and they release your squirrels. And again, that's an exhausting thing. You don't want your squirrels loose. Keep your squirrels in your boundaries, and don't give in to the boundary benders and breakers around you.
That's wonderful advice. I see we have some more people joining us, so thank you for joining us live here on whatever platform you're joining us on. We're really thankful to have you. We are talking about boundaries, communicating boundaries for digital interaction with people. This is primarily through, we're primarily talking like email messages and phone calls right now. Um, but it could actually be social media. There are some people who just live for notifications on X or Facebook or whatever. And those are that's important to set those boundaries. And if you are on a team, they do have, so on Slack, for example, you can actually click to say that you are away, and you can pause your notifications for till the next day if you want. Because what is it that tends to interrupt us? It's those notifications, right? It's those notifications. Well, our second thing is to talk about scheduled communication, and we spoke somewhat about that in terms of um, like my voicemail. I will return your call between 11 and 12, and then I will also return your call or after 4 p.m. Now, we in our company, what we do is we put in our signature block what our working hours are. Now, do people pay attention to that? Not particularly. However, if we enforce that boundary with them, so if somebody calls, so I have one team member who she's like, but they called. And I said, yeah. And this team member is actually in accounting. And so I just kind of smile and go, yeah, well, they don't need that invoice at 7 o'clock at night. It can wait till the next morning. And they probably have that expectation, even though you do not have that expectation. So we can have all of the flags and notifications. We just have to we have to abide by those boundaries. And that's what Catherine was saying earlier. But you can, so when you have an out of office communication on your email, you can do something creative to say, I'm off at the beach with my family. I mean, be honest if you're at the beach with your family. Um, and a team member will get back with you. I will respond to emails when I get back on Monday at 10 a.m. So now people know that I'm gone. People know that I don't plan on responding until after I get back to work on Monday. And for me, that's been really freeing because I work in a world where there are people working 24/7. And I just look at the weekend and I go, this is my time. This is my time to be with my family. This is my time to worship and spend a day just worshiping God. This is my time to maybe make bread, or my time to do something to nurture myself. And I've truly come to the place where I see the value of putting my mask on first. And I mean, that sometimes that means in the afternoon, I just turn off my computer and I go lie down on the couch and take a nap, because I want to be my best for all the people who are depending on me for decisions and negotiations and everything else that I need to be doing. Um, so, yeah. What else, ladies? What are some other things that people can be doing to schedule the communication that they are going to be setting? Who would like to go first?
Well, we're sort of taking it in order at this at this point. I think it's we'll stick with the usual lineup. I have a friend who puts all her expectations into her terms and conditions. So that's as much as what she expects to receive from her clients as what her clients should expect to receive from her. And again, like Anna said, at the bottom of all our communication here at IPA Group, we say, your message will be answered within 24 hours unless it's a weekend or, public holidays. But I understand that I'm in I'm in Northern Ireland, and even we don't have the same public holidays as the rest of the United Kingdom. So people can get confused. But like Anna was giving the example there of somebody looking for an invoice at 7 o'clock at night. I have a client who will message me at 10, 11 o'clock at night, and I used to answer, and she turned around and said, I don't expect an answer. I just, if I don't get it off my chest, I'll forget. So me knowing that about her means that I don't have to answer, but she doesn't know that I will open the message because I can't stand the little number. So therefore I forget she's messaged. Anyway, we're working on it. But having that, and I think in writing, so in terms of the terms and conditions, it is within the contract. So it is signed by both parties. And you can refer back to it and said, as per our terms and conditions, I will answer you within 48 hours, 24 hours, whatever, during 9 to 5, whatever your working hours are, so that they can go back to that. But it is, in a way, we have to retrain all our clients because they've either been used to one way or another way, or their previous supplier, or like I said, during COVID, things just went belly up, and everybody was available at all times of the day and night, and so therefore we're now used to that. Like I said last week, when instant answers through social media, all of those things that we've been retuned to, we need to take a step back and go, actually, do you know something? No. When we started our business 10 years ago, my husband, who started it with me, he was very much we are on 24/7, because otherwise they'll forget about us. And I was always of the, no, you know something? If they want to come and work with us, they will realize that we have working hours. So if they don't realize that, then I don't want to work with them. So it's you will attract, and I'm sure Catherine will back me up on this, you will attract the type of customers that you are putting out into the world. So if you're saying to the world, hey, I'm open 24/7, even on public holidays, even at Christmas, even when it's my kid's birthday, then that's the type of people that you will attract into your business to come and be your clients. Whereas if you're going, I will work 9 to 5, I will be slightly flexible based on different time zones, or based on, an emergency, like we talked about last week. There's define an emergency. But those then will be the type of clients that you will attract, and the type of colleagues, and the type of, people that come alongside to work with you, work for you.
We have to stop meeting like this.
I can wait. No, I was just going to say, yes, you're right. No. Here's the thing about dealing with clients. If you give in to everything they want, they run the show. And there's no going back. Once you start giving in, there's no going back. You will lose that client. Once you give in, then they expect you to give in from there on out. And the moment you say no, you lose that client. However, if you have set these expectations, just like your friend did, she put it into the terms of agreement. Once you set those expectations and you say you hold to no, you will probably have a client for life, because they know what to expect. There is nothing this world wants more than people that hold to what they say. We want authentic people who are being consistent in what they do and how they do it. And if you can continue to change how you do it and what you do it, then you're going to end up with clients that consistently change how they do it and what they do. And nobody wants that. I have a really good friend, Nathan Ingram, who's written a book called Dealing with Problem Clients. And his whole thing is about putting fences around these monsters that will eat up your entire life if you allow them to roam free.
Esther, I'm going to leave you in charge of the Zoom and the not Zoom, okay? Because the two of us, we are having some real fun conflict here. No, it really does remind me of raising children because because a mother who is available 24/7 to her kids, she's just ready not to have any more children. And so it's super valuable that we're setting those expectations all the way around, and now we're really talking mostly about scheduling communication, which we've been talking about. But block out your time. Time blocks are essential, because let's say you need to look at those emails. Well, set aside a time so that at, let's say, 10:30 in the morning, from 10:30 to 11:30, that's the time you're going to open your email, you're going to respond, you're going to get back with people. And then, during that time also, maybe you're going to do your phone calls or whatever. But you can schedule that. And even with your family, even with your family, do have times where you're available to them and they know it, and that you're not. So, because I think it's important all around us, not just professionally, but personally, that we have that. So, for example, when I send a text to someone, I'm expecting to hear from them by the end of the day. Um, but it could be important for me to say, between 5 and 6, excuse me, between 5 and 6 p.m., that's when I'm going to send out those text messages that I need to coordinate things at church, or talk to a family member, or whatever. So create those time blocks are important, even when it comes to your family and your friends. And just be sure that you're setting those and you're abiding by those. Now, our last topic is respecting personal time, and that falls into everything else that we are talking about. Um, Personal time needs to remain sacred. And if you've not been doing that because you're afraid that somebody's going to get offended, or you're afraid you're going to lose a client, or you're afraid, number one, anything that you're doing out of fear is not serving you or anybody else around you. So it's important to take the courage to realize that you taking care of yourself, and I'm not talking about being ugly about it, you don't have to be you don't have to be bratty when you're doing that. You can just very calmly and show respect to the other person by saying, you know, this is my personal time. I'll get back with you in a half hour, or whatever the time frame is. Because that personal time, it is that oxygen that you need through the mask. It is, I mean, I even when I reach out to, so I do the scheduling for our church team, and I let them know, just because they might be at church doesn't mean that they have to volunteer to work with the team, to work on the team that day. Sometimes people just need to chill. You just need to relax and be, um, not have to be or do something. It gets back to, we're human beings. We're not human doings. And, we'll pick up the slack. And if we're respecting our own boundaries and we're respecting other people's boundaries, they'll respect our boundaries. Um, where do you guys stand on all of this? Let's see. Esther, since we're going around the clock, it's your turn.
We'll go around the room. Yes. So when it comes to things like, do not disturb signs, I think my kids are the only ones that don't read those. Everybody else, like even right now, while doing this, I have a button that I press, and on air comes up in big, not flashing lights, but shining lights before they leave my house to come out to the garage, and they still ignore it. So, it's bright red. You can't miss it, but they do. But when you have that personal time that you can take and with my husband, we've always had this, that he'll turn around and say, I'm going out with my friends. And I said, fine, perfect. Because I get my personal time then to watch my shows. He gets to go out with his friends. Then when I want to go out with my friends, vice versa, and we can do the same. Also, Anna was saying about scheduling in time in the last block for looking at your emails and looking at your, answering phone calls or making phone calls. I pre-cancer, I had one day a month that I would go to a spa with a friend, and that was my time out, personal time, relaxation, and everything. I haven't kept it up since. I need to get back to doing it, but now looking at my calendar, I'm going, I don't know where I'm going to fit that in. But it's one of those things, and sometimes we just have to not force it, but find the moments inside the chaos. My kids play football, soccer every weekend. So they train 2 or 3 times a week. They're they also play 3 times a week or 4. So it's basically every day there's soccer somewhere. And sometimes it takes us to the far end of the country. Now, my country is a lot smaller than your country. Just, my country is a lot smaller than Texas, let alone the whole of the country. But a couple of weekends ago, my eldest was playing a match, and it was going to be 2 hours from our house on the Saturday morning. Like, if we had left it on the Saturday morning, it would have taken us 2 hours to get there for his hour-and-a-half match and then come straight back 2 hours. I didn't want to do that. So I booked a weekend away, and we stayed up for the weekend in that location. It's lovely. It's on the north coast. You should really come and visit, near the Giant's Causeway. Look it up. It's beautiful. And we took the dogs, and we took the whole weekend off, and we took, that was time to breathe, and a different air and a different thing to look at. And even just doing certain things like that, where you're not looking at the same 4 walls, and you're not looking at the same 4 faces or the same, people or animals or whatever you have in your life that you look at constantly. Because, like I say, I work from home. I work with my husband. It's constant. There's no leaving the office and getting away from work, because you work together and you live together, and everything's just, sort of intertwined so much. But looking at a different outlook or a different scenery, then that can just kickstart another part of the creativity, or refresh the love that you have for your business and for everything else that you do, because you've just hit that switch where you just go, I know it's only 5 minutes, but this is my 5 minutes. Catherine.
I absolutely love that 5-minute analogy, because I am a big proponent of little bits. I have friends who do the block times, and that works for them. Having homeschooled all those years and having had boys, and now I have a neighbor who I put up a sign and she doesn't see it. And I have pointed to the sign and she just went, oh, pretty sign. So when you have those kind of people in your lives, taking advantage of the little bits makes a huge difference. So I will prepare parts of meals so I can put a meal together in 15 minutes. I can fix a meal quicker than my husband can go pick up dinner. Those little bits of time, those little bits of effort, those little bits of investment will make it easier for you to manage the chaos when it shows up, because chaos is going to show up. Chaos is always there. That's why you have to have those boundaries in place, because chaos is constantly knocking on your door. And if you allow chaos in just a little, all it takes is a crack and it'll slither in. And like I said, it releases the squirrels. And once those squirrels are out, everything's going to be harder. Everything's going to take longer, and everything's going to be more exhausting. But if you have little bits in place, little bits of warning, little bits of extras that you can pick up here and there, even like for cleaning, if you're walking down the hall and you see something in the floor, pick it up. You're one step closer to having your house clean. So use those little bits. And if you can do a full weekend, do a full weekend, but don't let it become your excuse for not making the most of the little bits.
Yeah, that's the little bits I really like that. And yet, I would also say to make sure that it's not the only bit that you make for yourself. You really need to make that other time. So when it comes to like protecting that sacred time, the things that we can be doing to protect our sacred time, and let's face it, it is sacred time. It's bigger than just our work. It's about I'm not a big person about everything has to be about me and my self-esteem and all of those pieces, but I am big on self-nurturing, because for example, if I'm constantly running like a hamster on a hamster wheel, then I'm not clearly hearing from God. I'm not clearly listening to the people around me. So, but to get back to what I was trying to focus on is, do things like turn off notifications, turn off your work notifications on your phone. Most phones now have a setting where you can allow just certain people to contact you. So my certain people that contact me are my family, particularly my family that lives close by in case they need me right away. Those are the only people that can bust through do not disturb on my phone. Um, Maybe opting for face to face with somebody as opposed to just doing it by text or by a phone call. Those kinds of things can help to build that nurturing that we're striving for, because we're also, not only are we human beings, but we're social people. People are social, and we draw energy from being with other people, as long as they're contributing to the positive energy. So think about, how do I keep work at work, and how do I keep play at play, or fun at fun? And people people who will respect you are the people, as Esther spoke earlier, those are the people you want to work with. Those are the people that you want to be around. Those are the people that not only will they respect you, but you will find yourself respecting them as well. And so let's go ahead and bring all three of us on, Esther. Just as a recap to today's discussion, um, we are talking about setting boundaries in our digital communication. And the first one we talked about is setting expectations. That means we let people know when we're available to be reached and when we will respond back to them. And we have to adhere to those boundaries as much, if not more, than our clients or the people around us, because if we don't respect those boundaries, no one else is going to respect them. The second thing we talked about was scheduling our communication. So you can do that through your voicemail, you can do that through your email. You can set your notifications to when your emails are going to pop up and let you know when people are available to speak with you, or you're available to speak with people. And then, the final thing is respecting personal time. Respect your personal time and enforce those things by turning off notifications, or if you have to, take those little bits, but don't forget to make sure that you're giving yourself some extended time where you are maybe just sitting in the backyard with your feet in the grass, or maybe you're going to the spa. Um, there's a lot to be said about just walking. This is going to sound crazy, but walking through Walmart sometimes, I do not know. I remember I just did this recently. I was stressed. So I went to Walmart and then I walked through the garden section. I didn't buy a thing. I just walked through the garden section because the plants were there, because I could smell the moisture from them having watered most of the plants. And so, I think it's important that we realize we live in a digital age. We're not going to get rid of it, but we can minimize the distractions in our lives by these three things. Any last comments, ladies?
Trying to
Anybody?
find the unmute button. Just to keep it in order. I would just try to utilize AI as much as possible when you are setting up your schedules and your boundaries and things, because as we know, a lot of these things can be at the same time every day, or at the same, time of day, or time of year, or whatever. But some of them will modify based on different dates. For example, Mother's Day here in the UK is a completely different day than Mother's Day in the United States or most of the rest of the world. And trying to remember when that is can be very stressful. So if in your calendar you can put in, 3 Sundays before Easter is Mother's Day, so therefore, remind me to send my mom a Mother's Day card, things like that, that you don't have to be constantly going, when was it again? When was it again? It gives you that, they talk so much right now in these days about the mental load. And the mental load, for those that don't know what it is, it's the things that live rent free in your head that you're just supposed to know off the top of your head. It's like, how much sugar do I put in my mother-in-law's cup of coffee? I know it immediately. Does my husband? No. And it's his mother, But it's one of those things that I shouldn't have to remember, but it's there. So if we can dump all the stuff that we know that's in our head into what they're calling it a second brain, so into something like Notion, or into some sort of AI thing that will then remind you of when people's birthdays are coming up, so you don't have to remember, and you can automate it to go, right, send them a message, send them an email, send them a card, send them, whatever it is you do for that person on that day. It will free up your brain to have this much more personal time and a better work-life balance. And bringing it back into the context of work, if you want to take every Monday to, from 9 to 10, that's going to be your time to check your emails and to email people back, or make your phone calls, or make your sales calls, write your email sequence, or do your social media posts for the week, whatever it is that you decide to do, that every Monday, 9 to 10, have it blocked out in your calendar that is also not accessible for a client to book a call during that time. Because there's nothing worse than you're in the middle of it and then, oh, hang on, somebody's booked a call during that time that I was supposed to have this. So if you have it blocked out, make sure it's working everywhere. And like we said last week and in previous occasions, put your phone on silent, put it into work mode, put it into focus, and whatever functionality that you have that it won't sound unless there's an emergency. And again, what constitutes an emergency? But being able to get through a period of work, whether that's 25 minutes or whether it's 90 minutes or whatever your brain can handle, because again, it's not a one rule fits all for these things. I mean, there's 3 of us here and we all have different ways of working, and we all have different things that work for us, and Catherine's taking her 5-minute breaks, and Anna might take her 30-minute breaks, and I might take my 2-hour breaks, but everybody's different. Do what works for you and figure out what will bring you back into balance in your life and your work life.
And I want to piggyback off that, because that's the most powerful thing that we've said today, is that you have to find what works for you. Because if it does not work for you, you won't work it. And then it becomes pointless. Then it just becomes another to-do list, just another stressor. So you have to find what works for you in this season. And that is so essential to understand. You have to give yourself permission to change gears when seasons change. When things happen to you, let's say you have a health issue. you're going to have to handle things differently than you did when you were completely healthy. When you have small children, you have to deal with things differently than when the children are older. Sometimes it takes more energy to deal with them when they're older. You give yourself permission to shift and adjust according to the season that you're in, according to what works for you. And you're going to have to write down what's working for you. You're going to have to review your journey. You're going to have to review your boundaries, those expectations that you've set. And you have to set the expectations for yourself. You cannot put expectations on anybody else. This is not about what other people expect or want. And they're going to want what they're going to want. But these are your limits. These are your rules. These are your expectations. And because of that, you get to set them, and don't let anybody else tell you otherwise.
Well, thank you, ladies. I think this was very productive. Moving forward, we're going to be talking about growth and leadership in the entrepreneurial realm. And so please be watchful for those that'll be coming up. Again, growth and leadership in the entrepreneurial realm. We all want to grow. It requires leadership. And who knows, we might be able to get some very special guests to join us. So again, thank you for joining us today on USA Biz Party. Thanks to my co-host, Esther Ocampo, and our guest, Catherine Lang, and we wish you a very good week. Remember to subscribe to this podcast or this live stream on YouTube. Follow USA Biz Party on X, and also follow me on LinkedIn. And hit that little button that lets you, or notifies you when our content goes live again. Thanks, everybody, and make it a great week.